Hello and welcome to Fearless DIY Music. My name is Tristram Lass, and today I want to talk about songwriting, and in particular, songwriting ruts. I know that sometimes I get into a pattern where I kind of write the same song a couple or three times in a row, and I don't really realize until I'm like looking at the songs later and I'm like, oh wow, there's not much variety here. Now, some people are content with writing in a particular genre or writing in a particular, key, and they like things to have continuity, and I understand that completely, and I get it. I am not one of those kind of songwriters. I'm always trying to find something new and different, and I think that a lot of people are in that same boat where they're looking for variety, and sometimes they get stuck kind of writing the same thing over and over and over again. So I just kind of wanted to detail a few of the things that I do to try to get out of ruts. Before I get started with the meat of the video, I would like to mention that subscriptions are much appreciated. I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that button now, and then you can get on with the rest of the video and enjoy it. I also wanted to mention that I do have a website. I never really talk about it, and I'll put that web address down at the bottom of the screen right now so that you can go and check it out. On the website, you will find links to pretty much everything I've got going on the internet, and also you'll find a gallery of all of my instruments with a brief little history or story about each guitar. All right, so let's get started. I kind of wanted to start this with an example. So I'll grab my trusty LGO here, one of my trusty LGOs, and talk about a song that I wrote trying to get out of a rut. And the way that I did that is I used a scale that I never would have thought of using before. The Japanese N scale, it's a pentatonic scale, and I'll put a little diagram of that scale up. I will show you how that sounds, and what I did is I used that scale as the basis for chord progression to come up with something a little bit different. So this is a great way to come up with new ideas, is to pick a scale or a mode or something that you've never tried before, and then hang chords off of the different steps within the scale, the new scale that you've discovered. So this is what the Japanese pentatonic that I used for this song sounds like. So it's definitely has an Eastern flavor to it. And what I did was I wrote a couple basic progressions that I then put together as a song. I'm not going to play the song proper because it will be coming up on one of my new releases, but I will show you how I hung chords, just limiting myself to those 5 tones. So that's one of the progressions that came out of that. Here's another. So using that Japanese pentatonic yielded me a song that I never would have written otherwise, limiting me, giving me nice, tight parameters of interesting intervals to work with, and to figure out, what chord voicings am I going to use, just using those 5 tones as the root notes. So that's just one example of how you can kind of break out and do something completely different. All right, so one thing that I find, really quickly, that's of tremendous value if you are a player who writes complex songs most of the time. One of the great things you can do is write a super simple tune. Just be like, okay, well, usually I write these, more progressive or jazz-based kind of songs or whatever, whatever style that you are working within, but you like a lot of complexity. And then say, hey, I'm only going to use 2 or 3 chord voicings or, a very limited scale or a limited palette, and be like, I'm going to write a simple song. And then, of course, the converse is true as well. If you're usually writing super simple tunes, then sometimes it's nice to challenge yourself and go, oh, okay, I'm going to write something that has, multiple parts and maybe a key change or a tempo change. And just to, kind of mix it up and give yourself a new flavor. All right, let's see here. Another cool thing that you can do is that if you don't use like loop style patterns or what I like to call sequencer parts, sometimes I'll write a song and I'll just kind of come up with a motif that I repeat, and I'll repeat it throughout the course of the song as things change on top of it, around it, or in unison with it. And you can do that with a looper as well to great effect, to kind of like break out of traditional songwriting a little bit. And it's, of course, contemporary artists are using this all the time. Since I am old and more of an old school songwriter, using the idea of a sequencer part or a loop is really cool. And it also calls to mind, like some of the great parts by Robert Fripp with King Crimson and other prog rock stuff from the 70s and early 80s that was super interesting and kind of forgotten in the canon of music by a lot of people. And they're handy songwriting tools to have in your toolbox as well. All right, what else do I have down here? Writing in a different key. It's really, really interesting to do this. Sometimes I find myself just like, I'm always playing in G or E or whatever it is. And then sometimes I just have to go, no, 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 no. And I shift like whatever it is I've written up a whole step or down a half step and just do a key change to challenge my voice. Sometimes it can change the entire character and flavor of the song just to move it a half step, or 1.5 steps, or however many steps you want to move it to change the key and make it more interesting for yourself and hopefully for your listener when they're listening to a group of your songs, either on an album or during your set. Let's see. I kind of mentioned this at the top, but being super conscious of self-aware of repetition within your own, songwriting canon. If all of your songs sound exactly the same and use the same basic elements, you may want to, go ahead and go, well, I need a little bit more variety. Maybe it'll be that one song that sticks out. It'll be the one that really catches the listener. So you have to be self-aware and you have to be self-critical and you have to be conscious of the fact that maybe you're writing the same song every time you sit down. Okay. Tempos are huge. Sometimes I find by speeding something up or slowing it down dramatically will turn something that was a good idea into a great idea. Always play with tempo. Sometimes you think, and what I do when I get ready to like actually commit to recording a song or getting the rhythm track together, I play with tempo a lot. Sometimes it will be small increments. Sometimes I'll really speed things up or really slow them down. And sometimes you can find some real, some really great stuff when you explore tempos on whatever you have written. If you are a guitar-based songwriter, which I'm guessing many of you are, given that there's a little bit of guitar on this channel, strumming patterns. I find that I fall into, this is one of my biggest ruts. I fall into playing kind of either the same finger picking pattern or I use the same strumming pattern too often when I'm writing a batch of songs. All of a sudden I find that the first song I wrote out of 10 has the exact same strumming pattern as song number 10. And then I go through and I kind of have to break that down and I start to change. Sometimes a tempo change will dictate a new strumming or finger picking pattern, but always be aware of how you were strumming the guitar. If you hit the guitar the same way every time, your songs are going to sound the same, even if the keys are radically different or the chord voicings themselves are radically different. You could actually do more with strumming patterns and tempo to change a song than you can with a key change or melody. Or, chord voicing change. I'm a firm believer that you could, have a CAD song, have 3 of them, but if you have radically different rhythmic structures around those 3 songs, it gives it more flavor. So that is something huge. Strumming patterns and finger picking patterns, mix them up. Try not to do the same thing every time. Then there's, kind of the easy ways to change things, where you can just like throw a flanger on something. You can try different tones from your amp. You can try different dirt boxes, acoustic guitar versus electric guitar, 12-string guitar versus, a nylon guitar. There are lots of different, or if you're a keyboardist, you have an infinite variety of sounds at your disposal. So just using effects and changing the tones and timbre of your instrument can really make a huge difference in giving you more variety, or, breaking out of a rut with your songwriting, for sure. And then the last things I want to mention are, if you have an instrument that's your primary songwriting tool, let's pretend it's a guitar, write a song based around a bass line, or write a song based upon a rhythmic pattern, a drum loop, whatever. Or one of my favorite things to do is I'll come up with a vocal melody and then build the chord progression around the vocal that I came up with without using any instruments whatsoever. Changing from your primary instrument to some other, form of expression is huge in coming up with something new and exciting in your songwriting process. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to me ramble on about songwriting and different ways to mix it up. I hope this is of value to those of you who are in a songwriting rut, or maybe have some valuable things to put in the comments to help out others who are watching this video. And let's just throw all those ideas in there. I love the comment section. I would hope by now you have subscribed. A like and a share is greatly appreciated. I'd like to see the channel grow a little bit quicker at this point, but everything is going really well. I'm enjoying it, having a great time, and I look forward to seeing you next time. All right, you take care.